Hi there, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters. And today we're going to talk about my 4th of July trip, the traditional 4th of July trip I take every year to go watch the Pulaski Yankees. You know, I'm not usually a traditional Yankees fan. I always feel like it's kind of being a, poser if you're not a local guy, local to a Yankees team and you're out there rooting for them. But I'll make an exception for Pulaski. I'll drive 2 hours to go watch a game there on the 4th, and it'll be the one game I watch there every year, and it's worth it. Now, I do like going back there because there's always new stuff at that stadium. Although this year there wasn't nearly as much new stuff at the stadium as there has been in the last few years. The guy who bought that stadium and convinced the Yankees to come there has just put a ton of work into that place. And judging from the picture that he had up on the wall as you walk in, intends to put a ton more work into it. Uh, Maybe too much, really. I think they're really, if you talk to local fans, really fervent local fans, they're convinced that they're going to be able to get the Yankees to put their single A team in Pulaski. And I'm not so convinced of that. I think Charleston might have something to say about that. They're really, the fans are really sold on it, and you usually see big crowds. However, it was kind of surprising. It was an evening game on the 4th of July, and usually when I've gone to these games, they've been day games, but usually you see 3,000 something people show up at the Pulaski Yankees. And the crowd was really low this time. Yeah, there was probably a couple thousand there, but it was less than I expected to see. And figured that out pretty quickly when the guys behind me were talking about how the town of Pulaski would not let them have fireworks. Now, every other baseball team in the entire country on the 4th of July has fireworks, right? And the guys behind me were locals and they were joking about it and talking about, yeah, they won't let them put any fireworks up because they're in a suburban area, except for the fact that they started pointing the houses, that house over there, that house over there, that house, and these back here. Last year they all had fireworks, so they were just kind of joking about that. And it turned out they were right because somewhere late in the sixth, early in the seventh inning, somewhere around that, when it started getting dark enough, my goodness, I've never heard so many fireworks going on from every direction. Obviously, the town of Pulaski was putting on a fireworks show because they had a big thing coming from that direction. But from all the other directions around the baseball park, there were fireworks going on too, and they were making it really interesting. I mean, it kind of felt like we were under siege, under fire. Um, and there wasn't anything you could do about it. I mean, they just had to keep playing through it. So there was a lot of times where the pitch is coming down and boom, 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 which I'm sure made it really interesting batting, and probably pitching too. But let's get on to what actually went on in the game. The game went 0-0 all the way through the 9 innings, right? Uh, the Yankees were punching above their weight. I think the Pulaski Yankees. Bluefield is number one in the East, and the Yankees were really playing hard to keep up with them. The Yankees' first pitcher, he really he got out of there pretty quick. I think he lasted one pitcher into the second inning, and he put a lot of people on base. Then came in, I'm going to get this name wrong, Gilmail Troya came in and he steadied everything out, right? He took care of all the guys that were left on base by the first pitcher, and he has a really kind of interesting pitching style. Not bad. I don't think it's bad pitching mechanics, but it was pretty interesting. I think it may be a good way of masking what pitches he's throwing. If you haven't seen it yet, I've already put a video up of him on this video channel throwing showing his pitching style. But basically, he would stand there and he would cock his head back, which made him look like he was leaning backwards. and then he would twist and then come forward and go into the rest of his pitching. And he was fairly effective, and it was an interesting way to pitch. You see all sorts of different ways that people pitch, although American pitching coaches tend to, hammer them all into one particular pitching style. Uh, they haven't done it to this guy yet, and I think that this is a style that may work for him. Okay, so after he straightened things out, the Yankees put in another guy, a Wellington Diaz, and he pitched 4 innings, and he just kept everything shut down. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays, the Bluefield Blue Jays were doing the same thing to the Yankees, although their first pitcher lasted quite a bit longer. They were just shutting the Yankees down. Goes all the way until the to the ninth, tied 0-0. Oh, and I got to say this: at 3 different times during the game, they had us, standing up because of patriotic songs. Of course, the national anthem before the game started. Somewhere about halfway through the third or the fourth inning, they had us all standing up for God Bless America. And then at the 7th inning stretch, they had us, it was Proud to be an American, which I always kind of have flashbacks on that because they played that song at us every 5 minutes when I was in the Army. But they had that song going up and had people singing it. But then they skipped Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which was just kind of shocking. Baseball teams don't ever skip Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and they just went right past it. So they did all this patriotic stuff, and then the most important part of the ball game they left behind, which since it's a national pastime, might be an unpatriotic act. Come on, guys, you just can't forget and walk past Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Okay, now that having been said, that little bit of goofiness, we get to the 10th inning, right? And they start out with that abomination rule, the Little League rule, right? We're going to put a guy on second. Wow, that's stupid and terrible. I know what they want to do. They want to make sure people score quicker. Baseball is the one sport in the world that could survive ties. Just say that if people make it through 12 innings, it's a tie, or 14, or something like that. 14 probably more appropriate. But, say it's a tie at a certain point and play the game the way it's meant to be played. Don't do gimmicky things, right? Now, they're only doing this in the minors, and God willing, they will never, ever do this in MLB. And hopefully it will disappear from the minors sometime. Unfortunately, once these bad rules go into place, like, designated hitter or not pitching to a guy you've decided you're going to intentionally walk, just sending you up to the base. These are terrible rules that get stuck in place and never go away. So I don't expect it to go away, sadly. Okay, so Bluefield's got a guy in second. I think there was a guy who's walked. The first batter's walked, and then we get, oh no, there was an out already, so I think the second batter walked. Then there's a hit that went right to where the shortstop should have been, and I didn't catch it all, but what it appears to be was the shortstop and the third baseman both ran for it, and then both decided the other guy was going to get it. The third baseman pulled up short. The shortstop tried to pull up short and fell backwards onto his rump, and the ball bounced over him into the outfield, which meant that the guy on first made it to third, and the guy that was on second, of course, scores. An irrelevant score because the very next play, there was a high fly ball, and when it was caught in the outfield, the man on third scored and got a point, got a run, and that would have been the winning run. So the guy in second, it turned out to be irrelevant. So the Yankees, by screwing up and missing what was clearly going to be a double play, allowed there to be 2 runs. And then the Yankees came up and weren't able to bring it back in the bottom of the 10th. So it was a fairly decent game. A shutout going through the 9th is pretty interesting. It's not like watching major leagues where you got a guy who's pitched the entire game and who's going to get a shutout, because they never do that in the rookie leagues. They're watching pitch counts and stuff, and they'll yank a guy. They don't care how well he's pitching. They'll yank him because it's just supposed to be a training league. So, okay, game, interesting things going on. The whole, fact that we were pretty much under siege through the good 40% of the game was kind of funny. And then I got to do the 2 hour drive back home afterwards, somewhere about getting back at about 1, uh, getting desperate at times, putting on Pandora and listening to funk music, 70s era funk, including Play That Funky Music, White Boy, song I remember from like, what, the 7th grade? Anyway, uh, um, it was fun. It was a blast. Like I say to everybody, if you're anywhere near Pulaski, go watch a game there because they've made it a good experience. Although I will say, if you buy tickets in Section 2C, understand that if you buy online and you think you're getting front row tickets, you are not. I'm not happy about this. They fooled me on this twice. I forget about it because every year I, go 1 or 2 games. I don't remember how everything's laid out. In front of the one that they sell, there's another row that they have for scouts and players, right? And you end up sitting on the second row, despite the fact they don't show that front row on the electronic sales. If they did, I would understand it'd be fine. It didn't matter really all that much. There were enough empty seats that I was able to move forward and get good pictures and stuff like that by moving to the next section. Still kind of annoying. But other than that, the experience is great. The experience is always great. So go watch the Pulaski Yankees. Having said all this, if you like what you heard here today, saw here today, hit like. If you like what you see around here generally, hit subscribe. You can direct contact me at LammersK on Twitter, and comments below. I promise I will try to read them all. I cannot promise that I will write back. Just don't have that kind of time because for some reason my boss expects me to work during the day. I don't know what that's all about. He just doesn't think that this hobby should trump work. I don't know why. And I'm going to leave you with one last piece of advice. If you got a little bit of spare time and you got a little bit of spare money, go watch the minor league sports. Y'all have a good week now.